Imagine a courtroom filled with silence, eyes fixed on Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Suddenly, soldiers step forward, ready to arrest him in front of everyone. Gasps echo through the chamber. But just as the moment reaches its peak, the judge rises, slams his gavel, and speaks words no one expected. Burkina Faso, a land rich in courage, history, and struggle. For decades, its people have fought for freedom, dignity, and sovereignty. Yet behind every step forward, shadows loom. Foreign interference, corruption, betrayal from within. Amidst this turbulence emerged a young soldier, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. At just 34, he became the face of hope. A man who dared to challenge the powerful and promise his people a future free of exploitation. To some, he was a patriot. To others, a threat. And so whispers began. Powerful forces plotted in secret. They could not silence his voice on the battlefield, but perhaps in a courtroom under the cover of law, they could destroy him. Rumors spread that during his next court appearance, soldiers would attempt to arrest him. Supporters gathered in fear, opponents in anticipation. Everyone knew something was about to happen, but no one could predict how it would end. It was a morning heavy with tension. The streets leading to the courthouse were flooded with people. Supporters waved flags, chanted his name, and prayed loudly for justice. Vendors abandoned their stalls. Students skipped classes. Farmers traveled from villages just to stand outside those walls. Inside, the atmosphere was different, colder, suffocating. Soldiers lined the corridors. Their boots echoed with every step, their hands clenched around rifles. Each face blank, unreadable. The courtroom itself was a sea of emotions. On one side, government officials and critics, whispering, waiting. On the other, supporters of Traoré, faces determined but anxious. Then the doors creaked open. Captain Ibrahim Traoré entered. He wore no grand uniform, no golden medals, just a simple military jacket. But his presence commanded silence. Heads turned, whispers stopped. Even his opponents could not ignore the aura of calm and confidence surrounding him. He walked slowly, deliberately, as though carrying not just his own fate, but that of an entire nation. When he took his seat, the judge adjusted his glasses, shuffled some papers, and cleared his throat. But before proceedings could begin, a sharp command cut through the silence. Arrest him! In an instant, tension exploded. Soldiers stepped forward, their boots striking the floor like thunder. The metallic clink of their weapons echoed. Gasps filled the room. Supporters leapt to their feet. Some shouted, "No! You cannot take him!" Others cried, their voices breaking in despair. Captain Traoré did not flinch. He sat upright, his eyes locked on the advancing soldiers. Calm, unshaken. His silence screamed louder than any words. The soldiers drew closer. One extended his hand toward his shoulder. The courtroom seemed to freeze. Every heartbeat felt like an explosion in the stillness. But then bang! The gavel struck. "Order!" thundered the judge. The soldiers froze mid-step. Every eye turned to the bench. The judge had risen, his hand trembling, not with fear, but with fury. "You will not touch him," he declared. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. The lead soldier hesitated. "But sir, we have orders." "I said sit down," the judge roared, slamming the gavel again. The sound echoed like cannon fire. Whispers erupted across the courtroom. Never before had a judge spoken against armed men. Never before had law dared to defy power so openly. And yet, here it was, a single man, standing between Captain Traoré and those who wanted him silenced. The judge's eyes burned with conviction. His voice shook, not from fear, but from the weight of truth. "Do you think justice is blind? Do you think this courtroom is a stage for your games?" he thundered. He pointed toward Traoré. "This man is not a criminal. This man has given hope to a people forgotten. He has risked his life for the dignity of this nation." Gasps rippled across the room. "You come here," the judge continued, glaring at the soldiers, "with your weapons and your arrogance, But I remind you, the law does not bow to the gun. And today, neither will I. The soldiers stood frozen. The order they carried now felt like a weight too heavy to lift. Traore remained silent, his eyes fixed on the judge. For once, he was not the one leading. Another man had taken that role. The judge raised the gavel once more. If you arrest him, you arrest every citizen who believes in justice. If you silence him, you silence the very voice of the people. And I will not allow that in my court. The silence was deafening. Even the air seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the soldiers lowered their hands. One by one, they stepped back. The judge had done what no one thought possible. He had turned the tide, not with weapons, but with words. Outside, word spread like wildfire. They tried to arrest him, someone shouted. But the judge defended him, another replied. Crowds erupted in cheers. Chants of Traore, Traore, justice, justice, shook the very walls of the courthouse. Women ululated. Men raised their fists, and children ran through the streets repeating the judge's words. Inside, the supporters wept with relief. Some reached out to touch Traore's hand as he rose. Soldiers who had once looked cold and threatening now stood awkwardly, unsure of themselves. Even among them, some felt respect for the courage they had just witnessed. For the people, it was more than a courtroom victory. It was a sign, proof that even in the darkest times, justice could still speak. Proof that their leader was not alone. When the session ended, Captain Traore walked out of the courthouse, head high. Not as a prisoner, not as a defeated man, but as a leader chosen by destiny. The judge's words echoed far beyond those walls. Radio stations repeated them. Newspapers printed them. On social media, they spread like fire. If you arrest him, you arrest every citizen who believes in justice. For the nation, this was no longer about one man. It was about the soul of Burkina Faso. The failed arrest attempt had turned into something greater. A moment of unity, courage, and defiance. That day in court was more than a trial. It was a battle between fear and justice, between silence and truth. And justice won. Captain Ibrahim Traoré walked free because one judge dared to stand against the tide. Remember this, true power is not in weapons or titles. True power lies in courage, in standing for what is right when everyone else is silent. If this story inspired you, share it, like this video, and subscribe for more stories of wisdom, courage, and destiny.